Welcome to another read-along series, and this is it, the big one. This one was massively recommended. I'm going to be reading Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and so many people recommended this book. The only other Brandon Sanderson stuff that I've read was the final couple of books of The Wheel of Time, and it's difficult to judge an author off of that. I really enjoyed those, but obviously he was finishing someone else's work. So how this is going to work is neatly and conveniently, this is actually split into 5 parts. So it means I have a nice place to stop at each part of the book and talk about what's happened, my thoughts on it, and then make some predictions going forward. So obviously there's going to be spoilers. Let's talk about Mistborn. What is my very first impression? My very first impression is that Brandon Sanderson likes to explain. So from this very first part, we have a very clearly planned out magic system, a clearly planned out plot line, as it would seem, and he doesn't want us to discover the world with him. He wants to tell me about a world he's created, and then he wants us to have an adventure inside of it. So he's very direct, quite blunt, if I'm honest, and I wasn't instantly sucked into this book, but that did change the further that I read on. So one of the first people that we meet is Kelsier, and Kelsier is a Mistborn, and he looks like he's going to be our hero for this story, or at least one of our main protagonists, because we're only just at the start. But he has a lot of hero qualities. He seems to have mastered this Mistborn ability, and he's going to be one of our big main characters and probably our mentor and hero figure, especially for Vin. Well, what makes him a hero? Well, number one, initially we see him like freeing slaves. The Scar are essentially slaves, especially in those rural locations, and he frees them. He clearly has a good handle, if not mastered, the Mistborn powers already. He's done something that no one else has been able to do, or so we think, which is escape the pits of Hatsin, something along those lines there, which no one else, as far as we know, has been able to escape, which was a cool entrance for him. He set him up as a figure to look up to for most of our other characters. We also have our apprentice figure, which is going to be Vin, and Vin is very untrusting because of her relationship with Reem previously. It turns out she's Mistborn as well, and she's slowly being welcomed into the gang. So it's an interesting dynamic between those two. She's very untrusting, and Kelsier is very secretive, and I feel like, you know, there's a lot to hide from him as well. So we'll talk about him in a little minute. And then the magic. Now the magic system just was explained pretty much immediately. It was explained how the metals work, what they do, and I thought that was going to be it, and I was quite disappointed. But then we got a beautiful, maybe not beautiful, but a very useful and entertaining scene where Kelsier goes to rob somebody else, goes to rob a noble, and we essentially see a practical example from a first person point of view of all of the magic that we just had explained. And that definitely got me more excited about the book, because I thought it was just going to be an explanation, this is how the magic works, and then we'll figure it out with her. But we actually got a really cool practical example from Kelsier, who appears to be a master of this. So the explanation was good, but seeing it, or reading it, I suppose, in live action while he's making it happen was great. That really got me invested in the magic system. And the books I've been reading more recently, the magic was very much unexplained, and you slowly learned it with the characters, and they had to figure it out as they go. No wise wizard or master sat down and explained it all. So it's definitely a different way of doing magic, and it's very in line with the rest of Brandon Sanderson's writing technique, I would say. We also have an assortment of interesting characters. We have all of the gang that's going to be trying to pull off this, well, what was kind of described as a heist, but is really a revolution. It's very ambitious. We also have things like Steel Inquisitors. We have Mist-Wraiths. We have Lord Renault, the Great Pretender. We also have, who else do we have? The Scar, who are quite interesting as a whole as well. So there's a lot to explore, a lot that's been half mentioned, and a lot to look forward to already. So what are my overall initial first thoughts? Like I said, I wasn't instantly sucked in. Everything seemed quite cut and dry and basic fantasy. We had the Lord Ruler ruling over everything. We also had our like hero character, Kelsier. We had a ruling class. We had some type of magicians. And then we also had like the slave / working class, which was the Scar as well. It's been like that forever, and now we're going to try and overthrow the Lord Ruler. It was a bit like, okay, well, I've seen this all before. However, the more I read into it, the more I got excited for what was to come, because I don't think Brandon Sanderson instantly gives characters a lot of depth and makes me feel like I know them and I'm excited to know them. He feels like he's just building out a story, which he is. However, as we got deeper in, I saw that he was quite intricately placing characters to have fantastic development, and I'll talk about that now. So this development, I'm going to align it with the predictions that I have moving forwards, and these are obviously wild predictions because I've only just met each character. I don't really understand the world, but you gotta have some balls sometimes and just make some big predictions. So here we go. The Lord Ruler. Now, it is not a wild prediction to say that there is a lot to this person and there will be a lot of secrets and things unearthed. But the first thing I will say is I think it's quite obvious that the narration at the start of each chapter is the Lord Ruler himself. I wasn't 100% certain, but then there was a couple at the start of the chapters that just made sense. It seems that we are going through his thought process and his journey to becoming the Lord Ruler. So some things that I need answering: what is the deepness? What now caused the ash? What, how, when? This is an exciting storyline. This is a storyline that doesn't quite connect with the same way Brandon Sanderson has just explained everything else. This is a bit of mystery. This is intrigue. And that is something that's definitely got me excited to read further into this book and enjoy the story, because of the slow nature of him bleeding out the information. If it is the Lord Ruler, I might be wrong. Regardless, it's an interesting character that we don't instantly know nearly everything about on the surface of things. So that is exciting. So it appears there was some kind of prophecy that he had to fulfill. What was that? What caused the ash mounds, ash mountains, ash holes, ash hills to put all of the ash out there? Clearly it's something to do with him defeating the deepness, maybe to do with the atium as well, the magic metal, which I'm going to talk about in a minute again. So yeah, very interesting. I predict that the Lord Ruler is the man. Well, actually, no, I do have a prediction for the Lord Ruler. So atium, I believe, or atium, the 11th metal, that has nothing to do, his ability to control the noble houses has absolutely nothing to do with the monetary value of atium or atium. I think that the atium / atium, I need to look up what the pronunciation is. I'm going to go atium right now, which means it's almost definitely atium. But I think that actually grants the power and the ability to be Mistborn or to be a Misting or, you know, one of the skill set to the nobles. I think that is why nobody is allowed to go to the pits. That is why that noble had some in his safe. Like, that is what can award the ability to people. And that's why he manages to maintain control over the nobles, is because they need it for that success. In some way, they need that for the power to work for them. And maybe that's why the Lord Ruler is so successful, is because he has the large reserves and therefore can like power himself up, something along those lines. That's my prediction for him. The next prediction is Reem, who was the brother, I believe, of Vin, or at least like a brother-like figure. Now, he obviously has to reappear. There's no way he doesn't. There was a couple of ideas I had. Number one, he either reappears high up in the ranks with the Lord Ruler, maybe as like a Steel Inquisitor or something ghastly like that. Or he reappears high up in a noble house or high up in the rebellion. Somewhere he must reappear. We've heard so much about this person in such a short period of book that it would be ridiculous for him not to have an impact on the rest of the story. And all we hear about the entire time is him teaching Vin about betrayal. Always watch out for someone betraying. So it would be crazy if he wasn't betrayed or betraying somebody later in the book. And I think the obsidian coin he left behind would be important to this. Maybe obsidian can be ingested. I don't know if obsidian's a metal. I don't think it is, but potentially that's something that just came to my mind right now. But the obsidian coin is obviously important as well. So it's a vague prediction, but Reem, obsidian coin, betrayal, coming back into the story, mixed up, packaged nicely. That's my prediction. So what's my prediction for Vin? I think Vin, she talks so much about betrayal and what she learned from Reem that only one of two things can happen. Either she chooses to trust someone finally and it pays off, or she chooses to trust someone finally and it completely doesn't pay off, and she should have listened to what Reem was telling her all along. If I had to make a guess, I'd say the first one, but betrayal is going to be important, or a lack of betrayal is going to be very important later in the story for her. My only other prediction for her is we get this very weird scene where she is told very directly by Kelsier that her earring can be used in a pinch or a tight situation as a weapon. Weird, really didn't need to be in there at all. So the only thing that means is that she uses her earring as a weapon at some point. You heard it here first, unless of course you've read the book and then you heard it or didn't hear it in the book. But either way, that's my prediction for Vin. On to our main character, Kelsier. And Kelsier, he has a ton of secrets. We already know this. He's having private conversations with people. He is far too confident and sure of where he's going and what he's going to achieve. But what are his secrets? Well, I honestly don't know. But clearly, the pits of Hafsin have something to do with it. Something's going on down there outside of what everyone else knows as well. I think maybe Kelsier knows the actual way to use the ATM, because he wasn't a Mistborn before he went in there. And he said he was awakened, but maybe he realized or saw how the Lord Ruler was utilizing the ATM to make people into Mistborn, and he knows he can maybe do the same thing. Something like that. We also need to find out who betrayed Kelsier. He's shrugging that off like it's not a big deal when someone brings it up. So either he knows already and part of his plan is to stitch that person up later down the line, or he's just quite naive and is ignoring it. I think the first one seems more likely. But if I had to take a guess right now who betrayed him, for some reason I'm leaning towards his brother. And I don't know why, because there's nothing specific. The only thing that stuck in my mind was that he stood down as the head of the rebels for some reason, and he seems like quite a serious character. I don't know if he deserves that accusation, but I have to guess somebody because I'm doing predictions. That would be my guess. The other thing that makes me think Kelsier knows a lot more than he's letting on is, well, number one, he obviously just does because he's like one of our main characters. He seems to have the master plan. But he also mentions about the world being green. He says things should be green, something along those lines, which means he either knows what happened when the Lord Ruler came to power and how he managed to do that and what the sacrifice was, because he knows things used to be green because they must have before the mist and the ash came down, you know. Or he knows something about the future, because things definitely aren't green right now, but they probably were previously, and they might be in the future as well if things change. So not a great prediction because I haven't really predicted anything, but yeah, Kelsier just knows more than he's letting on. So Mist-Wraiths, we meet Mist-Wraiths. They're not as scary as I thought they were going to be, but they clearly like recycle and make into something new, whatever they eat up. So I'm guessing, and it's mentioned the nobility used them as well. I'm guessing maybe the Colossus are like something to do with the Mist-Wraiths. Maybe the Mist-Wraiths can like eat up a dead human, spit out this Colossus thing, which is like neither here nor there. Maybe it's kept alive by the ATM as well. I don't know. I'm definitely spitballing here, but they were interesting for sure. The Colossus are obviously going to be a big part of this story and like a mystery as to how they're made. They just seem like inhuman characters. Everyone seems to be afraid of them, even the Lord Ruler. So it makes sense if they were kind of like made in an inhumane way as well. So tell me in the comments, were you instantly swept up into this world, or did it take you a little while, same as myself? Do you love Brandon Sanderson's style of, or what appears to be a style of like just giving you all the details and then finding ways to get you excited about those details and about those rules as well? Or do you prefer it when a writer like slowly has you discover the world with them? Plus, my predictions. Please don't give me any spoilers, obviously, but feel free to laugh, because I'm probably a really long way off. There's some wild, I promise the predictions do get better and more likely closer as more information is revealed, hopefully, fingers crossed. But if you like this type of video, I did this for the Wheel of Time as well. They're all on my channel. I'm going to be doing this for more and more books as I go through. I recently did it for Joe Abercrombie's The First Law series as well. So hope you come along with us. Please like them, subscribe. Thanks for watching.